What is going on, everybody? This is going to be a little bit of a shorter video, and we're kind of going to hop around between different sets and different eras, but we're going to start with some of the earlier Sword and Shield booster boxes. This was the first week in the spreadsheet. I added in Sword and Shield base, Rebel Clash, and I'm trying to think of the third one, Darkness Ablaze. So I just wanted to talk about these a little bit. There's not a lot out there, and if you go to TCG Player, you can see here the graph. $435, $436, up 48% over the past 12 months. Really, this box is closer to $500. The last three sales on TCG Player are right there, but those are from May 30th and June 9th. However, if you go on eBay, at least earlier today when I looked it up, there was one booster box, I believe, right at $500, and then there was two more around $525, $523, something like that. So for all intents and purposes, this is a legit $500 box at this point. Rebel Clash, same sort of deal. You can see here up 40% over the past 12 months, sitting around $300 on TCG Player. However, most recent sales, closer to $400. If you go to eBay, I think there's one box listed below $362. So I'd probably put this somewhere closer to $350. Now, neither of these sets sell at a fairly fast rate. You're really only seeing like one or two sales per week in buy it nows. If you throw in auctions, that number gets inflated a little bit. Darkness Ablaze, though, this is a set that actually sells at a decent pace. And it's one of those sets that's kind of slowly crept up and no one's really talking about it. 3 months ago, you could buy this. If we go here like mid-February, late February, actually early March, this was around $200. We're now sitting around $250. So that's a 25% increase over the past couple months. And most recent sales, you're actually getting closer to 260, 270 on some of these. And just based on what I'm seeing with supply out there and sell-through rate, I wouldn't be surprised if Darkness Ablaze is a $300 booster box by the end of 2025. I think that's entirely possible. I kind of feel like some investors are looking at this set kind of the same way they're looking at Rebel Clash now and Sword and Shield base, is that they're just so old that even though the sets are terrible, they should just be more expensive than they are, especially considering that basically every other booster box at this point is $200+. Now, a lot of the other Sword and Shield sets, like the really strong alt art sets, your Fusion Strike, your Brilliant, Lost Storage, and Silver Tempest, there was a little bit more supply for most of those on the market this week, but the sell-through rate was down a lot. So I don't expect Sword and Shield to be making a move anytime soon. And if there is one set that's going to do it, it is going to be Evolving Skies still. I think this is pretty much a legit 2K box at this point. Most sales you see are right around there on the secondary market. TCG Player, you still have some lower ones. Most recent sale though, $1969. And I've said this probably a dozen times at this point, but I'll say it again. I still think Evolving Skies over the next 3 to 5 years is going to have better returns compared to a lot of the other sets from Sword and Shield era. Maybe some of the strong ones like Fusion Strike, Lost Origin will outperform, but I really do think it's still going to be punching well above where it probably should be, considering it's like 14x MSRP. But that is my prediction over the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to be one of the best performing Sword and Shield sets still. And then the final thing I want to talk about before we get in kind of the main discussion of this video is Paldea Evolved. We're seeing sales now $320. I think one up to almost $330. That was from today, actually two sales at $330. You have some lower ones, but this is a legit $300 box, and it's moving closer to like $310, $315 consistently at this point. Now, the one thing I wanted to talk about today, and people have asked me to make a video on this, and we'll go in depth in another video, but some of these Sword and Shield era Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs have really been popping off over the past couple months. Chilling Reign's probably not one of those, but you can see here, like back in December, as everything took off, it started to take off as well. But a lot of these, you kind of have to look towards the end of mid-April, end of April. That's kind of where a lot of these have started to perform exceedingly well. Chilling Reign, again, not one of them. And I think we're going to go in order here from lowest performing to highest performing. Astral Radiance, this is kind of a better example that you can see. End of April, $102. We're now sitting around $125. So what is that, like 125% increase, something like that. And you can see here most recent sale from today, almost $140. Next one up is going to be Silver Tempest. You can see the small bump here. Not great, but it moved from the 160s up to around 180. and most recent sale is $200. That was June 9th though, so this box does not sell that often on TCG Player. Evolving Skies, another one where you can kind of see the spikes here, $465 up to around $535. Most recent sales though, $750, guys. And this is a really great example as to why I think people need to start going deeper than just TCG Player and what the graph tells you. You got to look at the actual sales that are happening, because the graph takes a while to catch up, can take weeks to months depending on the sales volume, I imagine, but also have to look at the secondary market. Either way, this is much higher than $535 at this point. That's basically a double up from mid-March. So over like a third of a year, you're doubling your money there. Brilliant Stars, this one kind of was out of whack. I think there was a buyout that happened here early March, if I remember correctly. Then we saw these come back down to around 115. We're now up to around 140 again, and recent sales are actually a little bit higher, closer to $160. Most recent sale though was June 13th, so almost a week ago at this point. Lost Origin, same deal. This one actually hasn't moved much recently, although it had a massive move from December up to around March. And if you look at recent sales here, right around that 205 range. Now, the one that's impressed me the most, Fusion Strike, this one really has exploded. You could see here, early May, it was around $195. TCG Player saying this is $300 now. So that'd be a 50% increase. But when you go look at recent sales, they're right around $400, $375. So you're getting fairly close to 100% increase over 2 months on these Fusion Strike ETBs. And I think a lot of this has to do with people going after the ancillary products of Fusion Strike and Evolving Skies. These were the booster boxes that saw the largest increase during that leg up from the Sword and Shield boxes. So it makes sense that people are going back to these ancillary products now. Maybe the booster box, especially Evolving Skies, getting close to 2K. This is going to be out of a lot of people's price range at this point. So if you want some Evolving Skies, you're kind of forced to go for an ETB, a PC ETB, maybe some build and battle kits or loose packs, sleeve packs. But I think maybe sometime next week, I'll look a little bit deeper into all of these PC ETBs, look at the eBay data, and we might even look at the regular Sword and Shield ETBs and maybe other ancillary products just to see what has happened in the 6 to 8 weeks following the Sword and Shield leg up. So to conclude this video, PCTBs from the Sword and Shield era, straight stonks. Paldea Evolved booster boxes, stonks times 2. Evolving Skies, that thing's just going to continue to go up for eternity, honestly, at this point. And then some of the earlier Sword and Shield stuff, there's not as much out there as you'd think, and even these really bad sets like Darkness Ablaze, Rebel Clash, they're starting to move. If you guys did get some value out of this video, I'd really appreciate if you leave a like on the video, share it with a friend, and comment down below if you guys are buying any of these sets. I'm always curious to see what you guys are doing, and it helps out the algorithm. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.